If you're a contractor who's considered getting a real job, a 9 to 5, or scaling back your current operations because it is too hectic, you're wearing too many hats, you're letting the balls drop, and you're stressed out of your mind, then watch this video, because in this video, I'm going to go over the exercises that I take my clients through that just take a few minutes to do, but it completely transforms their business. This is literally step 1, step 2, step 3 of what we do within the first week of someone coming into my program, and I'm literally going to share it all with you right now. If we haven't met yet, I'm Liz Chisholm, and I help contractors just like yourself scale their businesses without scaling their chaos. So typically when a contractor comes to me, they're wearing all the hats, they're the bottleneck of their business, everything is in their head, they can't seem to put out fires fast enough, and so they're constantly just becoming the firefighter of their business. They're becoming the CEO, and not the CEO as a leader, but the CEO as in the chief everything officer of their business, and they are like pulling their hair out because they are so stressed. The very first thing that I do with all my clients is a project audit. Now, most of the time people think about a time audit. Oh, I'm going to see where I'm spending my time. But this is a little bit different, and it focuses on the types of projects that you're doing. So for instance, I had a bathroom and kitchen remodeler come to me, and he did bathrooms and kitchens, and I had him do a project audit. And so that's where we go through the numbers of how much did you make, what's the average transaction value, like what's the average kitchen versus what's the average bath, and we go through all of these different metrics for based off of all the jobs that you've done in the last 6 months, and then we decide, okay, what do we need to stop doing and what do we need to start doing? In fact, if you want this project audit spreadsheet that I have, just drop a line below saying project audit and I can send it right over to you. So basically what this does is it creates clarity out of the mud of your business, because most of the time it's not that contractors aren't good at what they're doing, it's that they're so good at what they're doing that they get to do all of the things that people want them to do, and they don't get to focus on the things that are going to help them streamline their business and create that profitability and that work-life balance. I actually don't really like the term work-life balance. I prefer work-life harmony. I feel like there should be a harmony between you working and your family life, and those should go hand in hand. There shouldn't be an equal balance of the two, but there should be harmony within the two. So when you actually can see the projects, you can see what you need to say yes to and what you need to say no to. And so I've had time and time again, like this one client, bathroom and kitchen remodeler, he realized that he wasn't making that much money on kitchen remodels. Like if he actually job costed and actually looked at his numbers, he was not making that much money. Whereas bathrooms, all day, every day, those were his bread and butter. And so he had to make the courageous, hard decision to stop doing kitchens and start focusing on bathrooms. The next phase of that, and this is after several months of coaching, we actually had to niche down on the type of bathroom that he did. Now, it's not that he won't do the other bathrooms, but he's gonna just charge so much for those other bathrooms that they do make it worth it. And if they'd say no, no problem. Doing a project audit is really important because it shows you where you should focus your attention and where you should not focus your attention. There's a rule called the Pareto principle where it's 80% of what you're doing is only producing 20% of the results, but 20% of what you're doing is actually producing 80% of the results. If you do kitchens in this situation, which are a ton of work and they're producing very little profits, why don't we flip that and do bathrooms, which are very little work, but produce a lot of profits? And so you have to balance it out. It's a very simple exercise, but it is eye-opening to see what your business is actually doing and where you should focus your efforts. And like I mentioned, if you want my whole spreadsheet, just drop a line below for project audit and I can send that right over to you. So once we know what jobs that we're going to focus on and what jobs we're not going to focus on, then we need to move on to the second one, which is team. And with a team, you have to think about who's on your team and are they a revenue generator or are they an expense? Most people do not audit their team in a way to see whether or not their team is making the money. If you have 10 warm bodies on your team and your business employees, none of them are making enough money, you're probably going broke. If a few of them are making money and a few of them are not making money, then you're probably going broke. Now, a lot of times people only think of revenue generators as a salesperson or as a marketing person where they're bringing in leads. And it's like, oh, well, that lead is going to turn into a client. So therefore the marketing person made money. But you have to think about every single person in your business making money. For instance, we have a lot of virtual assistants, and most of the contractors I work with actually end up hiring a virtual assistant through a company that I partnered with because it is such a huge asset in their business. Now, when my husband hired a virtual assistant who was going to help him with some marketing stuff and some admin tasks and different things like that, he had this whole list of stuff to do. And some of it she was really good at, some of it she wasn't really good at, and he just got really frustrated. And then we had to think about it. Okay, what is it on this list that makes you money? And it was like, oh, his weekly newsletter. He sends that out. He gets people emailing and saying, yeah, I'm ready to buy a house. Yes, I'm ready to sell my house. That weekly newsletter makes money. So we literally narrowed down her list to send out the weekly newsletter. Once she got that done really well, then we added stuff back, but now she paid for herself. So the $5 an hour that we pay her is nothing because we make money every time she sends an email out. And so that is where she becomes a revenue generator. If you have a project manager, their job is to keep it on budget, keep it on schedule, make the clients happy, make the team happy. And if all of those are happening, then you're not going to have the rework, you're not going to have the callbacks, and you're going to get the repeat business, which then becomes a revenue generator. And so if they're doing their job and if they're doing it well and you're not having to jump in and fix all the issues, then that person becomes a revenue generator. If you have scheduled out a certain amount of labor for a job and you have a laborer and they are lazy and that labor and cost increases and swells, well, now they're an expense. But if you have a laborer and that labor and cost stays there or even saves you money because they're so efficient, now they're a revenue generator. So you have to think about every single person in your business making you money. Now, I have a plan that I work with my clients where you can get them up to speed in 30 days or less. Most of the time, training and onboarding takes a good 90 to 120 days. That's on average. But if we can put the systems in place, the clarity in place, and all the puzzle pieces in place for that person to actually thrive immediately, that training time squishes down to 30 days, and now that can become a revenue generator way faster in your business, and that's how you can scale quickly and rapidly without losing profitability. If anything, you're actually gaining profitability because if they add revenue to your business and they're not an expense, your business is going to grow exponentially. So that's the second thing that you have to do. You have to think about what's this person going to do that's going to make the business money. Now, the second thing that I do within this team category in a team audit is I have everyone take a 6 types of working genius assessment. Now, if you don't know what that is, don't worry, I'll explain it really quickly. Basically, it says that everybody has 2 geniuses, 2 competencies, and 2 frustrations. And there are 6 geniuses total. So everyone's got a different pattern and different combination of geniuses, competencies, and frustrations. Now, with that being said, is that because there are 6, every single project, every single job, every single big thing that you're doing requires 6 letters. That means that you've got to go from W, which is wonderment, to invention, which is all the ideas, to discernment, which picks which idea is the best one, to galvanizing, who puts the plan in place and rallies the people, to the enablers, who's the workhorse, the worker bees, the ones who are actually going to help do the thing. They're going to enable the plan to happen. And then you have the tenacious people who are going to cross it over the finish line, get it done, and make it all happen. And so most of the time what people do is they have this beautiful little org chart that's got the leader on the top and they've got some type of operations person and then they've kind of got these branches that go out. That does not actually help in the day-to-day operations of your business. But when you look at everything from a 6-letter job and you're like, okay, what letter am I missing? When I push this out across all my clients and in their entire team, so their entire team takes the assessment, when I do that, we immediately see where the holes are. And if there's a hole, what happens is the owner puts themselves into that hole, and that's where they're wearing all the hats, doing all the things, but that could actually be their frustration, which means that's why they're burning out. If you're an ideas person, you could come up with ideas all day, every day, and you would never burn you out. If you're a galvanizer like me, then you could actually create plans and strategies for everybody in every type of business, and it wouldn't burn you out. If you've got enablement, then you don't want to create the ideas, you don't want to create the plan, but if you're given the plan, you will follow that to the T and just be as happy as a clam. But when you are missing those geniuses, then people are trying to fill in. Most of the time, the owner's wearing all these hats, they're getting frustrated, and then they end up hiring the wrong person. And so when you do a team audit and you say, okay, what do you need to do to generate revenue in each position? And then where do you fit in the puzzle piece based off of a 6-letter job or a 6-letter project? You can now have the formula to create growth, exponential growth in your business because you finally have the team and you can, like Dan Martell says, buy back your time because you're not jumping in and doing their job. You're not jumping in and wearing all the hats. You're not jumping into things that frustrate you. If you are, most of the contractors I work with are actually more of like the ideas person or the wonder ideas person, which is the visionary. That's a classic entrepreneur. But if they have to go then do the punch list and make sure all the little details are done on every single job, they literally want to pull their hair out and they want to like just quit and get burned out so much because they're working in their frustrations. So you hire for the right positions based on people's like innate genius versus just a warm body in a position, then your business starts thriving. In fact, every single time I do the Working Genius assessment, companies end up increasing about 20% in productivity overnight. Literally, it's that quickly. And so I actually am a certified facilitator for the Working Genius, so I end up facilitating it and putting a meeting in and all that type of stuff. But the third thing that you need to think about when you're scaling your business, and this is the third thing that I make my clients do, is what is the most immediate constraint? What is that thing that's blocking me right now from getting to where I want to go? And most of the time, we like to ignore the thing that's right in front of our face. We want to go and solve the easier problems that are farther away. If you look at a mountain that's way off in the distance, you can actually put the mountain in your eyesight with just your little fingers, and it becomes a little tiny mountain. You're like, oh, I can go deal with that problem because it's far away that you don't want to deal with it, versus this huge issue that's right in front of your face. It's very challenging. But if you can identify what is your most immediate constraint, what is the thing that if you do this one thing, it will actually make everything else easier. It'll make things flow better. It'll free up resources for everything else. When you do that, you can actually start fixing your business. Now, if you think about the most immediate constraint as like maybe a kink in a hose, if your goal is to fill up your bucket full of water, and that's your business, and that's your profits, you want the bucket full, you first have to do a project audit, which means you have to plug the holes. And you've got to do a team audit, which is going to plug the holes. Once you do that, you now need to see where are the kinks in the hose. If you have 3 kinks, and if you solve for that middle kink, you're not going to solve anything in your business. Yeah, eventually that kink needs to be unkinked, but it's not going to actually free up resources to go solve another part in your business. But if you think about, okay, what is that first kink from the faucet through the hose? You start unkinking that one, then you unkink the next one, then you unkink the next one. Sometimes it's all twisted and you have to untwist it. But if you try untwisting it and then you untwist it all the way to the faucet, you're literally going to just create more twists. But if you start at the faucet, which is the closest thing to you, your most immediate constraint, and you start working backwards, you can now start scaling your business because you're fixing what needs to be fixed. So go do a project audit, go do a team audit, and then think about what is that most immediate constraint that I can fix right now in my business so I can grow my business, I can scale my business without scaling my chaos. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.